Welcome back, I'm Helen.
I'm James.
And we are global nomads. And in 2024, we sold everything we owned to retire early and travel the world full time.
So today we're going to talk about why we went to Kuala Lumpur. It's not the only reason, but it is one of the reasons. When we left a year ago, we planned that we would have a stop in Kuala Lumpur so we could have medical treatments or medical checkups. And the place that is quite common for people to go to who are nomads or travelers is Prince Court in KL. So we scheduled appointments to come to here, and this was always our plan to have I think they call it the executive health plan when we got here.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos about Prince Court and people like us that are nomads, that are older, that have gone there to have their regular checkups.
Older.
Well, young at heart, obviously. What we knew we would have to do though is, as well as the assessment, we knew that we were going to need to see some doctors. So there isn't too much information out there about what happens when you do need to see a doctor. I have a pre-existing medical condition, so I have an autoimmune disease. I did make a video on that earlier on that you'll be able to go back and watch if you're interested. And I talk more there about healthcare around the world and how I've been able to see doctors up until this point. But we both ended up seeing a few more doctors than we thought we would. And the process became a lot more protracted than we thought it would, and expensive. So we wanted to share that with you, what our experience was like and how much it all cost.
So today we are off to Prince Court for our annual medical. Let's come along and see how we go.
Okay, so we made it here to the hospital and we just checked in. Super easy. The entrance is very nice, we'll show you that later. Literally, we walked down the corridors, filled in a pretty basic form, if you're used to filling in forms in the US at least anyway.
Less than the US.
Much less than the US. We're told to take a seat and now we wait.
There are 4 plans that are available. The first one is below 40. I wish.
Yeah, we don't fall in that category anymore.
The next one is above 40. The next package is above 50. And the last package is above 60. And then each package is split between male and female, so you can have different treatments based upon that, and you can select some other things as well. But they are the 4 main packages that are available for the executive health screen.
The key differences really between the different packages are how in depth they go. Obviously, as you get older, they're a little bit more in depth and include more things. In our example, we chose the over 50 package because that's how old we are, sadly. So this includes, in the female one, for example, you get a bone density scan and also your lady checks. So you're going to get a mammogram and a pap smear, which obviously the gentlemen are not getting, but you get to have your prostate checked instead, which is obviously still nowhere near as bad as a pap smear. We all know that, ladies.
So in our case, what we actually had was an initial consultation, blood panel, vitals, audio test, ophthalmic screening, body and fat analysis, that didn't go well, diet and wellness counselling, chest x-ray, abdominal ultrasound, DEXA scan bone density, resting ECG, and a stress test. The total cost for both of us, because as Helen says she has slightly more treatments, is 3,950 Malaysian ringgits or $862.85 at the exchange rate when it came through on our credit card. And we actually did get a 10% discount because we used the Mastercard.
That was only in the health screening though, and I don't know if that's all the time. I don't know if it was a special offer. Have your health screening and get 10% off if you pay with Mastercard, because we certainly did not get 10% off the rest of our treatments if we paid with a Mastercard. So we tried to schedule appointments online, but the required date we had, they didn't actually have any. So we called them, which was pretty easy to do, and made the appointment over the phone, and then there was availability for the date we wanted. So I don't know if they only release a certain amount of appointments for online check-in, but anyway, we were able to get the date we wanted. Now, you do have to be fasting to do the blood work, so we wanted to go as early in the morning as we could so we could eat. And so we made our appointments for 8:15, and we arrived about 8 o'clock. It was very easy to register. You go down on the first floor as you enter the main lobby. To the left, it's on the first floor, and there's a big sign that says health screening, so it was really easy to find, and we were able to get checked in there. We did need to take our passports.
Yes.
And then we had to fill in some initial required paperwork, which was like, I think just like 1 or 2 pages from memory.
Nowhere near as bad as it is in America.
Just basic information, yeah, not like the whole stuff you have, rigmarole you have to go through in the US when you go and see a doctor.
So after check-in, we sat down, and then we were both called to start going through the list of doctors and procedures that we've just talked about: blood work, hearing, eye tests, stress tests, scans.
Weigh-in.
But what they did was they actually split us up. So I got called for one set of procedures, and then Helen went for another set of procedures, and then we were WhatsApping each other to find out which bit we'd done.
Well, what have you had done?
What have you had done? Where are you? And occasionally we passed each other in hallways or waiting rooms.
Yeah, it was all very well organised. I think everyone has said that, to be honest, if you've ever watched any other videos about this, but it's all very well organised and very efficient, honestly.
It took us about 4.5 hours to have all of the checks and consultations done and dusted.
Yeah, I think we were finished by about 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that. And that literally we'd had every test done. So that included like the DEXA bone scan, my mammogram,
Pap smear,
the pap smear, X-rays, the organ ultrasound. Literally everything was done in about 4.5 hours.
And then they give you a voucher to go and have lunch in their dining room. I think it was 20 ringgits they give you a voucher for each. Yeah, it's not a lot of money. The dining room is directly underneath. In the basement. And you can
a restaurant.
You can go there and have a reasonable meal, because obviously you've been fasting, so you need to get some food inside you.
So here we are at Prince Court. We just finished all our tests this morning. We had our annual assessment done, which we're going to talk to you a bit more about. But basically, it took us about 4 hours to have all of our tests done.
Just over 4 hours.
I had a couple extra ones because I had some lady tests done as well.
Not for me.
We have already seen the lifestyle
modification
centre. We've been there already, which again we'll talk about it in more detail, but we're in the restaurant now. They do give us a voucher for lunch, so we're going to have lunch, and then about 2 o'clock we're going to go back and hopefully see the doctor properly to have all of our tests gone through, all the results gone through.
What's your view so far?
Very well organised. I did get lost once because they weren't very clear where I was supposed to go, because you have to go from one place to another. So I did get lost once, but generally very organised. Everybody speaks very good English. Everywhere is definitely up to Western standards if you were concerned about that. Anything else?
For the money that you're paying, and we'll break it down, but basically because we're over 50, it's about $400
each.
About $400 US. We're waiting for our results, so we've got about an hour to wait, and they give us these little vouchers, which gives us 20 ringgit off food, and then you've gone to this menu, and we're just about to order some food, and we'll put the menu in the video. And then when you've had your meal, around about 2 o'clock, you go back to the executive health screening desk, and they then basically start going through your results. So that's...
You'll meet with a doctor to go through your results. I think we actually saw different doctors.
Yeah.
I saw the same one that had done my pap smear and had also asked me my brief medical history. And you saw a guy.
I saw a guy who, again, was the same doctor that I had a very quick consultation with, and then from there we decided on referrals and everything else.
So they will go through sort of line by line in your report. So by this time, in the space of like 2 hours since you finished, they've put together a folder for you of all your results. So there'll be a printout of your ECG, results of your stress test, results of your DEXA scan. Everything is all already collated for you in a report and a folder that you'll be able to take away with you.
And summarise.
And they will go through that with you. So our initial we've done the test, we've met with them afterwards to discuss those. I think we were done by about 3:30.
3:30, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, something like that.
Going back to the apartment.
So everything is super efficient. I couldn't really fault it, especially for the price.
No.
I feel like it was reasonable value for money for what they did, because there was a lot of quite in-depth things, and it was a very efficient process. Moving on to the referrals, we'll give you our thoughts on that.
It's like a Cartier bag, but just for old people. So one of the things that I thought was pretty impressive compared to our experience of health service in the US and the UK is that you would fill one form in and you would go and see all the doctors, and all the doctors would have the same information across the whole field. So if one doctor wants to look at an x-ray or a scan or your blood work, or even you do your vitals every morning before you go and see a consult, that information is immediately populated throughout your account number, so that any doctor that then would sign on isn't going to make you repeat it. You don't have to do what's your health history, you don't need to do what your vitals are, you don't need to redo x-rays. And x-rays, if you need an x-ray doing, it's done. The results are immediately uploaded.
Yeah, there's no waiting for a report from the x-ray technician. The x-ray will be done and it's uploaded to your profile, and then you'll go back and see a doctor like an hour later and everything's there.
And compare that to, say, the US, which is our most recent experience. You would go to a doctor, ask for a referral, they would give you a referral, you would then go to have the x-ray or MRI or CT scan done. You would then book another appointment back with your doctor, and that process can take 2 or 3 weeks. This was all done within an hour.
So there was a couple of referrals that I knew I needed to do, one of which was a rheumatologist, and I actually asked them to refer me to a rheumatologist for my autoimmune. And I also asked to see an orthopedic because I have an issue with my thumb. My arthritis in my thumb is pretty bad, and my ankle from, if you've watched our previous videos, you'll know that I fell in Sri Lanka, I had a boot on, and so it goes on. And then I fell again in February, and so my ankle was still giving me issues and was still inflamed and swollen. So I went to see an ortho. I also had some precancerous moles removed a few years ago, and so I typically regularly go for an annual check as well. So I knew I wanted to see a dermatologist. I was also referred to the eye doctor for further follow-up because something had shown up on the eye, so I went to see the eye doctor as well.
Endocrinology.
And the last one I asked to go and see was an endocrinologist because I was under an endocrinologist in the US. So they were the ones I needed to go and see. So we had gone in to have our assessment done on the Thursday, and basically we could set all of our appointments up with those consultants for the following Monday. That's how fast you could get appointments.
So again, I had referrals. I had a gastroenterologist because I was looking at maybe I've had a colonoscopy before, so we all know how fun that is. So we were having a look at that. We also saw a urologist. I saw an ortho about my trigger finger, and I also saw a cardio specialist. So, and we obviously both went to physio as well. So we had quite a lot of appointments. I think we had 7 or 8 appointments on that Monday.
Which basically we were there all day on the Monday. But each of us got to see all of those specialists in that one day, which is pretty impressive compared to, again, the UK or the US where you would wait to see doctors. Obviously it helps that all the doctors are in the same building as well. So for example, when I saw the rheumatologist, she was like, oh, I want to speak to the ortho about something. Then they're all in the same building and they're all talking to each other. Again, a little bit more unusual than you would get in the UK or the US. So it was easier to have a kind of holistic kind of view because it wasn't, oh, this doctor's at this practice and this doctor's at this practice and they're not going to talk to each other.
The other thing is that if you want to refer yourself, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can just look on the website, check the profile of the doctors to see which one suits you, male, female, experience, reviews, and then you can send a message and book an appointment. And if you want to see a specialist about whatever, you can normally get an appointment within a few days.
Or even the same day.
Or even the same day.
Like I saw the rheumatologist and was like, oh, I need to go and see an ortho. I had to see a different ortho for my thumb that I had to see for my ankle. And so I was able to go and see one and then literally a few hours later go and see the other one and make the appointment the same day. It's super efficient in what's available and being able to see people.
So I'm going to go through some costs here and I'm going to read them from my phone because there's quite a lot of figures.
That's a lot.
There's a lot. So an ortho consult for my wrist, which I had a bit of an injury on, was $86.91 US. That included the x-ray of my wrist, which the x-ray itself cost $8.81. A cardio consult with a heart ultrasound came to $268 US. A dermatologist consult, which we both had, was $63 US
Each.
Endocrinologist, which was Helen, was just the initial consult was $76.86. Rheumatologist, so the initial consult was $40.51, and then blood work and scans, which you had quite a lot of, came to $139.54. Helen had an ultrasound of her hand, ankle, bone density, lower back, spine x-rays, quite a lot of treatments.
You name it, they x-rayed it.
And that came to $185 US. An MRI of Helen's ankle, which identified that she had 3 fractures, came to $529.27. Steroid infusion by IV, which was administered in the ward,
In the emergency room.
was $170 US. And then we both had a period of physio. I had a trigger finger and Helen had everything.
I got a frozen shoulder and some physio on my ankle as well. Because although it's fractured, we're going to try physio first. Long story. Where it's fractured, I'd already worn a boot for a while. It didn't require a cast. It was basically more kind of therapeutic treatment to see if we can get the inflammation down. Newsflash, we're not. So I think I have an appointment on Monday to review it I think I'm going to end up with steroid shots as well. We'll see what else they say, but the physio definitely helped my frozen shoulder though. Literally, I was at the point I couldn't move my arm more than about here. Couldn't reach to do my hair or anything. So anyway, yeah.
Now to give you physio, it was for an hour session, and it's always the same cost. It's about, I think we've each done about 8 treatments of physio, and it cost about $58 US. It's about 250 ringgits each. Now, I had some experience of this in the US just before we left. I had a car accident, and they sent me for a physio, sent me for PT, and they actually wrote up a plan. Now, the insurance company wouldn't actually cover the plan. All they would do is just write up the plan, and then they charged me $980 US just to have the plan without treatment. So to give you an idea, for us it's $58 for each treatment, and just to have a plan without actually any treatment was $980. So gives you an idea there of the cost comparison.
So when I saw the eye doctor, one of the suggestions she had to me was to do a laser iridotomy. Yes, that sounds fun, doesn't it? So basically this is a procedure where they use a laser to make a hole in the coloured part of your eye to relieve pressure and increase fluid activity in your eye, because apparently I needed that. And in the long term it will help with hopefully the prevention of glaucoma. And the cost for that was about a lot, $850 per eye. I did a little bit of research, and that's still cheaper than the US, and I doubt it would have been covered on my insurance in the US as well, but so I had both eyes done for that, so that was a big chunk of change that we did spend at the hospital. So without boring you too much about all of our various ailments, we spent a lot of money there basically. I was glad to see a rheumatologist. I have now been able to start a new drug, which in the US would have been cost prohibitive. My insurance actually wouldn't pay for it. To give you an idea, it runs about $7,000 a month in the US, and here I can buy it for $500 a month. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to work. Again, I have a follow-up on Monday to see her. Overall thoughts about the process?
Well, I think your rheumatologist is a good example, because they instead of just looking at your rheumatology markers, they looked at inflammation throughout your whole body, and then made referrals to, for example, they told you to go to the eye doctor.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
And they also told you to go see the ortho because of
my ankle. But she was the one that requested the MRI, that we actually got to the bottom of why it's still hurting me, which is that it's actually fractured. I also found out she was much more thorough in terms of finding out other things. I'd raised before about my back in the US, and I've had an open MRI, and they were like, oh yeah, your back's got arthritis. Yeah, there you go. Now, she was like, okay, you need some hardcore anti-inflammatories here, you need some hardcore painkillers, because actually in my back, for example, I knew I had a scoliosis, which is like a wonky spine. And I also have osteoarthritis. No, I don't. Spondyloarthritis. I do have osteoarthritis, which is old age regular arthritis. But I also have spondyloarthritis in my back. I've bulging discs. I've got a herniated disc. I don't know. I'm falling apart basically. But she was much more thorough in finding out things. There's some stenosis there as well, and she was able to talk to me about, which is basically when your vertebrae fuse. She's able to talk to me a bit more about like longer term solutions. There isn't a solution. Longer term coping mechanisms, let's call it that. So it was definitely a little bit more of a holistic approach, and I didn't feel rushed. I think my first appointment, second appointment, I was in there for over an hour. And she was very open to answering questions. You came with me on the second appointment, I think, and she was much more open to answering questions. I would say the same about the ortho I saw as well. The first ortho I saw, I wasn't hugely happy with. I mean, he's still got the same answers. The second guy I saw, I thought was much more helpful, and the thumb guy was very helpful. He was trained in America. He actually referred me to a guy, if I ever did want to get it done, that had the surgery done, that I could go and see in Miami, who he trained with. And the same with most of the doctors, they've trained overseas. Some of them are just Malaysian trained, but I think almost all of them there are either UK trained, Australia, or US trained. The one I wasn't particularly happy with was the endocrinologist. I had a really great endocrinologist in the US. This lady kind of looked me up and down like she didn't really think much to me as soon as I walked in. Gave me one-word answers and was pretty unhelpful. I think I was in and out of there in, I don't know, maybe about 3 minutes. It's a bit more like dealing with an old school UK consultant. They used to be like that a long time ago.
3 minutes?
Yeah, I got all of 3 minutes. So otherwise, the dermatologist I think was very nice.
Yeah, quite thorough.
Very thorough. But it wasn't all as positive, I don't think, as we were expecting.
No. Mainly around the organisation and paperwork and billing. It kind of got to a point where I think we both felt that we were getting referrals or treatments because it's all about the money. And it doesn't matter where you go in the world, it all comes down to the moolah. And we did get to that point where we've seen a lot of reviews on Prince Court and about the executive health cover and the initial plan, but when you actually do get into the referrals, I'm not necessarily sure that
it's all in the patient's best interest.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like some of it was in the hospital's best interest. And they're a business at the end of the day, they're there to make money. But we definitely started to feel like you were being seen as a bit of a cash cow.
Absolutely. And as a result of that, we started to question perhaps some of the referrals and some of the things that were going on. And again, I think we've said it in a previous video, you kind of got to take responsibility for your own health and not rely on a doctor. It's a good idea to get, rather than just see Dr. Google, you do want to see a specialist, but you need to control the direction that goes in, so that you are the person who knows how your body feels and what's right and what's wrong and what needs doing. I had a trigger finger issue. In the US, this would have cost me, I think it was about $1,500 US. Here it came to about...
Well, that was just your copay was $1,500.
$1,500 plus, yeah. Here they just did it with physio and it's kind of resolved. I think it took 8 treatments at just about $58 per treatment. And some of these treatments don't exist in the US. I had a treatment with my urologist, which he was trained in the UK on the National Health Service, and they don't even have that treatment in the US.
Because I don't think it makes enough money.
And I asked
the
him,
US.
why is this treatment not available in the US? And he said because Big Pharma pay for all the doctors to go on a jolly and say these are the pills you need to prescribe, and that's what you do. And so it's not very sexy and not very profitable. So going to other countries, you get other treatments that may be not even available in the US or the UK.
I think as well, probably most people are not going to turn up to have as many issues as we did. You know, I think if you're going for just the health screening and you're pretty confident that all you want to do is test out for the major things and that you're pretty healthy, I would say it's a good option.
Yeah, we would more doing a full MOT because our car had done a few 100,000 miles and we needed it to keep going for another year. Was more of our track. We wanted to be, we've spent a lot of time at Prince Court, and we really wanted to be in the best shape we can be so that when we go on our next leg, which we're due to go to Bangkok in May. We wanted to have all of this done, so we have sacrificed quite a lot of time and quite a lot of money to make sure that we are as good as we're ever going to be.
And I think we've definitely moved forward. We'll have been in KL for 2 months, and we really have spent the whole of the first month just doing medical stuff. We had some odd days in between, but we've committed a lot of time to just doing medical things. And so that was always the plan. And we knew that we, like James said, we just wanted to move forward as much as we could, so that we can go forward as much as we can, feeling as good as we can.
Which I think we've achieved. We'll see. Will we?
Yeah.
Maybe. We've been going to the doctors twice a week now.
A physio, PT.
For physio or referral appointments. So we have a whole day of appointments on Monday, tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow.
And then we have a full series of appointments on Wednesday. And then potentially that's our last appointments.
Hopefully,
maybe.
we hope, yeah.
But yeah, so it's going to be 2 long days, and then we'll try and do things in between those days, so we actually get to see some of KL.
We have done some other things as well. It's not just been medical, but it's taken up a lot of time, but we knew it was going to. The other thing that we did while we were here was, I hope you can still hear us over the construction in the background. If you are interested in our Airbnb accommodation, we will share it in another video. But it's pretty noisy here. We are in the city, and there's a building being built right outside our window. But one of the other things we did do was have a dental checkup as well. We needed to go for a regular checkup and a clean. We found a dentist that was referred to us by someone on another nomad group.
Yep.
And went along there, and we both had a checkup and a clean, and it was about...
It was 300 ringgits each, which works out to about $65 each. And then you had an x-ray.
I had an x-ray as well, because when I fell in January, I think I must have clamped my jaw down, and I lost a bit of what I thought was tooth. It was actually my bridge. I've got a bridge at the back. And so the bridge is chipped. Yes, fantastic news, not. And it's come a little bit loose. But he quoted me $1,500 to replace it. And because we were doing all the other appointments, all the other stuff, I'm living with it for now. I know I'm going to have to get it done. I have seen other nomads have had dental work done in Thailand and Vietnam. So when we're there, we're heading to both of those places. I may look there, because I thought $1,500 was still pretty steep, to be honest. I think we'll probably be able to get it done cheaper in Thailand or Vietnam. A lot of other people do go to the hospitals in Thailand to have their annual checkups as well. I think it is a little bit less expensive there, but I don't think there's much in it from what I've seen. The treatment here, some of it was definitely more expensive than I thought it was going to be.
I think, I'm not sure if it's an inflation thing or prices have changed, but I mean, once you get through the initial consult, which I think is a really reasonable price, then although like an x-ray of $8, is not unreasonable, but a few of the other things start to stack up, and it starts to add up, and that did feel like it was more expensive than I was expecting.
Definitely. And we were also going to get new glasses here. We went in and priced up a couple, because we both have prescription glasses and we both have prescription sunglasses. And for yours, for both pairs, it was going to work out to about $700 US, I think.
Well, the lens was going to be about
400
each.
Yeah, so
plus frame.
Yeah, so you'd have been looking at like
maybe 1,000.
Maybe 1,000.
And yours wouldn't have been that much different.
I stopped looking at that point. My prescription hasn't changed that much, so I'll live with mine for a bit. Again, I've seen other videos where people have got glasses really inexpensively in Vietnam. So I'm probably going to wait until I get to Vietnam and maybe look, and then we may look in Thailand as well.
Yeah.
To get an idea on prices there. We're not desperate. Well, your glasses need changing.
I really do need to get them changed, but
well, it's not like we need to do them tomorrow. But again, that was quite a bit more expensive than we were both expecting them to be here. We actually do have to make a quick trip back to the UK, so might look in the UK as well, because you got the prescription, so you don't even need the test. So we'll see. So as ever, thanks for watching. Hope you found some of that helpful if you're thinking about coming to Prince Court to do a medical checkup, and hopefully you won't need to have a whole lot more stuff done like we did.
No.
Join us next time, and remember,
Like, subscribe,
and give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Bye for now.